Bryce Canyon. It's a natural wonder, home to the world's highest concentration of hoodoos. It hosts a prairie dog festival every year, which is apparently a festival about prairie dogs and not, as I'd hoped, a festival for prairie dogs. Over 2 million people visit Bryce Canyon every year, and they all have to pass through the town outside its one entrance, Bryce Canyon City. But if you ever pass through Bryce Canyon City, you might notice that people you meet seem to be calling it Ruby's Inn, and that actually just about every building in town says Ruby's Inn on it too. So what's going on here? Well, turns out Bryce Canyon City is Ruby's Inn and vice versa, because once upon a time in 2007, this Best Western resort managed to incorporate and become an official town. But how? And why? And what do they have at the Cowboy Buffet? Today we're answering 2/3 of those questions. The story begins in the early 1900s when Ruby Surratt and his wife Clara Minnie Surratt set up a homestead on a bit of desolate land not far from Bryce Canyon. Licensable images of Ruby Surratt are hard to come by, so instead here's a Ruby in a cowboy hat. When the Surratts got there, Bryce Canyon wasn't the tourist attraction it is today. It wasn't even a national park. But as soon as they saw it, the Surratts were blown away and wanted everyone to come visit. After a few years of setting up camps for visitors, Ruby said there'd be money in this here tourism and gave up the mill he'd been running to open Tourists Rest, a cabin and tent house site, in 1920. 3 years later, he sold Tourists Rest to the Union Pacific Railroad, and the Surratts retreated to their ranch. Around the same time, engineers were planning out a road to get to Bryce Canyon, and Ruby donated some of the land his ranch was on to the project. So now Ruby's got a major train station nearby, and the one road going to a very cool place runs right through his land. Kind of a good place to build an inn, wouldn't you say? So that's exactly what he did. He built Ruby's Inn, and the family has owned, operated, and expanded it ever since. They even rebuilt it after it burned down in 1984. Today, it's got 694 rooms, 3 restaurants, an RV park, a campground, a general store, some souvenir shops, a rodeo, and a storefront that just says jail and appears to have fresh cookies. Oh yeah, and it's a town. The Surratts started toying with the idea of incorporating Ruby's Inn as a town as early as the 1970s and got really serious about it sometime around 2004. But their county, Garfield County, had the power to reject their requests, and they did repeatedly, probably in favor of eating lasagna and legislating against Mondays. Or because Ruby's Inn raked in so much tourist money that their tax contributions covered 10% of the Garfield County budget. Their sales taxes alone generated $300,000 a year that, if the hotel were to incorporate, would go to the town, the hotel itself, instead of the county. So it's no wonder the lasagna lovers were against it. The gist is this: when Ruby's Inn's tourist dollars went to the county, a bunch of people who actually lived in rural Utah would benefit. If those dollars just went back to the inn, the tourist attraction would improve for its visitors, the Surratts, and the small number of people who actually live right outside the entrance to Bryce Canyon, and the rest of the county would just watch. The counter-argument from the third-generation Surratts running the inn in 2007 was that they were already self-funding things that you might consider municipal services, like water, sewage, and plowing snow so school buses could get around, and that's the kind of stuff their tax revenue should have been covering. But whether you agree with the county or the company, the issue was settled, because the county had the power to reject Ruby's Inn's request for incorporation until 2007. That's the year the Utah state legislature passed the controversial HB 466, titled Incorporation of a Town Amendments, which couldn't sound more boring if it tried, but was exactly what the Surratts needed to force their incorporation past the county. The point of the law was to make it easier for unincorporated towns that were being neglected by their county to incorporate and start setting up services for themselves, and it passed without a single vote against it. Here's basically what it said. If your would-be town has between 100 and 1,000 full-time residents, and at least half of them support incorporation, the county has to let you incorporate. Of course, when they read this law, the people in the Garfield County office were like, hey, whoa, this is gonna screw us over big time. And the state legislator was like, oh my god, no, okay, yeah, we'll look into it. But by the time they did, it was too late. Ruby's Inn claimed to have 138 residents and had already petitioned to incorporate, so the county had to approve. How do they pull together 70 yes votes that quickly? Well, of those 138, 73 were members of the Surratt family, and the rest were employees of the hotel. All they had to do was prove that there were, in fact, 138 people living there, because if just 39 of the folks in the headcount were fake, dead, or seasonal employees, the county could reject incorporation. That's why a committee from the state, with reps from both the county and the company watching their every move, looked through voter rolls, school records, and more to confirm that every single one of those 138 people did, in fact, live there full time. They proved there were sufficient residents to force approval, and suddenly, Ruby's Inn became Bryce Canyon City, Rob Surratt, Ruby's grandson and the inn's owner in 2007, became the mayor, a conference room at the hotel became City Hall, and 5 Surratt family members became the town council, positions they were granted until the first election 2 years later. Bryce Canyon City became Utah's 244th city/town and the first to be incorporated under HB 466. The state recognized this as, to put it lightly, not the intention of the bill they passed, and quickly amended the law to say an incorporation petition that wanted auto approval needed 5 different sponsors who collectively owned less than 40% of the land, and also that once you became a town, the government had to actually be elected. The edit was so swift that in fact, Bryce Canyon City is the only town to have been incorporated under the original bill, but they got grandfathered in when it was amended, so they kept their town status and still collect their own sales taxes on jail cookies. Ruby would be proud. So if you're looking to ride a horse or celebrate prairie dogs or whatever, head to Bryce Canyon. But if you're looking to enjoy thousands of hours of amazing content from some of your favorite creators, at home or on the go, head to this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a streaming service I started with a few other creators a couple years ago, and now it's the single best way to watch, not to mention support, tons of amazing creators. Creators come to Nebula to make their best stuff they couldn't afford otherwise, or that the YouTube algorithm wouldn't help find a big enough audience for, and you can watch it all for less than a seventh of what you're about to pay for Netflix. So that's Joseph from Real Life Lore's Modern Conflicts, Lindsay Ellis's hour-long Jurassic Park breakdown, all this stuff I've been up to, and so much more. The best part is, when you use a creator's discount, you get 40% off an annual plan, and a share of your money goes directly to that creator. So you get all those originals, plus early releases and bonus content for stuff that ends up on YouTube, and it's all ad-free, and you can download it to watch in Bryce Canyon, where sometimes you have limited cell service, and you're directly supporting your favorite creators, all for less than $3 a month. It doesn't get much better than that. So if you're ready to give Nebula a try, click the link below to get 40% off an annual plan, and I'll see you over there.